if I could go back in my time machine, I would do this long before last spring. I would have done it years ago, because this has been, I mean this from the depths of my soul, this has been one of the best decisions that I've made in my lifetime, in terms of my personal health and growth and development and what it's setting me up for in the future. I have zero regrets. I would recommend this program to anyone who's serious about getting results, being healthier, and living a good life.
All right, welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast. I'm your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, a company that is on a mission to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and reduce their risk of chronic illnesses by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. I believe that having a fit, healthy body and mind is the foundation to living an incredible life, and this is what the show will give you if you choose to listen and implement. Enjoy the episode and have a great day. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, we have a Fit Vegan success story. I am joined by Fit Vegan superstar, Dr.Dan. Dan, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing just fine. Good as always. Happy to be here with you, Maxime.
Awesome. I was going to say good morning, but people are going to be listening in the morning, but we're recording at nighttime.
Time is relative.
Yes. So just for the people to know, like when I look at your chart from your highest to your lowest point, you lost roughly around 21 pounds of shifting your body composition. You went from 18.5% body fat down to 15, which is great because we got some really great ab outline in those photos. Those great photos. So I'm excited to dive into your story, who you are, and kind of how the journey was for you, because a lot of, like, I mention this every podcast, but a lot of people think that the people that we work with have nothing else going on besides just working out and eating healthy. And we work with real people that have families, that have careers, that have other things going on. So do you mind kind of giving us a little background as to who is Dan and what is life like?
Yeah, sure. So to begin with, I'm married, have grown sons, but they're still on the payroll somewhat, so to speak. And they're in school and whatnot. So it's a pretty busy life. I work as a physician, and it's a full-time job, 24/7, a lot of days of the week, and a lot of hours, a lot of early mornings, a lot of late nights. And so it's just a pretty demanding lifestyle, but a happy one. And I've been really blessed. I'm presently 58 years old, and in my early 40s, started taking my own advice that I was giving to patients for a long time about health and fitness and diet, and started running and, getting more into physical fitness and making that a priority, which up to that point in my life, a lot of people, that took second place toward just getting through your day and raising your kids and doing your job. And but I started to feel the slide, like a lot of people do when you're in those late 30s, early 40s, and started listening to my own advice that I was giving other people all the time, started employing that. So I got really kind of just for a time, a good decade or more, into running was kind of my passion, and really enjoyed that for a lot of years. But despite that, it hit those plateaus, and stopped seeing gains in my fitness, even some, minor injuries and things like that due to long distance running, and just genetics kicking in, family history of heart disease and hypercholesterolemia and, such things as that. So I saw those kind of coming down the pipeline at me, and I thought I got to really do something here. So about 5 years ago, whereas a lot of my family members are taking statins to control their cholesterols, I'm a stubborn guy, and I'm like, I don't want to take drugs, So I invested into whole food, plant-based diet, and that really did it. I dropped my cholesterol, kid you not, like 80 or 100 points, just with that alone, and not adjusting my running regimen, just sticking with it. But then again, started getting into some injuries. So the exercise kind of went backward a little bit, and I started putting on a little bit of weight. And, already being committed to the whole food, plant-based diet, I thought, well, gosh, what can I do now? What can I do to get myself back on track and see continued good health, not just stabilization. I mean, I want to get healthier. And I came across the Fit Vegan information, and kind of was observing the podcasts and the social media posts, and decided that sounded right for me and for my lifestyle. So decided to go all in on that. So I reached out, of course, to you and started implementing that. I think we first connected last May, about 8 months ago,
Yeah.
and then dialed into the program in June of last year. So it's been about 7 months, and it's been really rewarding to say the least. The results are there. I was telling my wife earlier today that I'm grateful to be able to do this podcast because I feel so strongly that this program has done so much for me mentally, spiritually, physically. I mean, name a level. It's done it for
Yeah.
me. And so I feel an obligation to really share this information with whoever wants to listen because, hey, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And that's a fact.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. And we'll definitely dive into like the nuances of your journey and how that was. Um, I'm a very curious person, so I'm curious to ask. Like you mentioned, there was kind of this transition point of I started to implement the things that I was telling my patients.
Yeah.
How did that feel, and what was the click that was like, oh shit, I should do it too?
Yeah. It's just, I don't know if there was really a moment, but I just remember my sons were teenagers at the time, and you're a young guy in your 30s, and you can just do whatever and recover. And I was probably in my early 40s, and I was playing football with my kids and young men, and I thought, man, I'm winded, and they're just going, and I know I'm not going to keep up with teenagers, but I thought I can do better than this. And
Yeah,
that was a moment where I thought, okay, you're literally getting out of shape,
yeah,
and I've always practiced what I preached, but not at a level that took my personal goals to the next level,
yeah,
and that's what really did it for me. I wanted to feel strong. I wanted to feel healthy, and it's just by nature that, given what I do, taking care of people and their health and trying to coach them up in how to live their lives and how to be the strongest they can be and achieve, present health and future health. I just had heard those words echoing my head, and all right, you got to walk the walk. I mean, I already was, but I wanted to go next level with it, and that's
yeah.
that's what really did it for me.
Yeah. So you had mentioned in your journey that you basically went whole food plant based,
Mhm.
you lowered your cholesterol, and then you were using running as kind of your means of exercise. Then
Correct.
there were some injuries from running, which again, very typical. It's hard not to get injured the longer you run. Like something's going to happen at one point,
I know.
right? And
Yeah.
so then started putting the weight back on and then found me. So were you strength training when you were running back then, or was it when you started the program that's when you implemented strength training again?
Yeah. It's a good question. I only strength trained as much as I needed to, as much as I
Okay.
had to, right, to be able to run. So it's
Yeah.
never really been a priority in terms of making gains with strength training or having better health as a consequence of strength training. I've really never invested myself that way. I had done some hit training and some body weight exercises, some lightweight training, but nothing that was really as organized in the way that the Fit Vegan program is. It's very structured, and I'm the
Yeah.
type of person that responds to the structure. You give me a template, I'll follow it. And so yeah, I had been doing some strength training, but it was pretty ad hoc. Just kind of did what felt good and what was easy. That kept me from trying to get injured with my running.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love what you shared. Like a lot of people we work with are type A. We don't have
Mhm.
people that are not type A in the program because usually they don't resonate to the podcast and kind of how I speak. So I'm happy that you resonated the structure. So I'm curious to know what were some of the changes that you noticed when you started strength training more consistently compared to when you were just focusing on running.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing that I noticed was that again, I don't want to keep bringing it back to this, but the running is just something I love. I mean, I
Yeah.
know some people hate it, some people love it, like everything else, and I love it. I love being outside and everything that goes along with it. And so, to answer your question, what I found the strength training did is that what I had been doing without serious strength training is I'd run, get injured, take a break, run, get injured, take a break, and so on down the line over and over again. And that's the definition of insanity, right? As they say.
Yeah.
So once I implemented the strength training program, the one of the things that really caught me about 2 months into the program, I thought, man, by now I would have been injured at least once or twice, and I had no
Yeah.
injuries. that stabilization of the joints in the back and the places that were kind of rough spots. I think that
Yeah.
the strength training really helped to fortify those areas to withstand, the running. I don't do long distance anymore, but it made it so that I remained injury free. That was one thing. And then the other thing is, it just, you just feel stronger. You can, it's hard to articulate, I'm sorry to say, but you can feel it,
Yeah.
when you feel healthy, and I was feeling healthier and feeling like I'm not only feeling healthier, but on my way toward feeling even healthier than that. There was a trajectory that I could
Yeah.
sense and really feel, and still do. And that was very encouraging and helpful at
Yeah.
the time, because it just fuels the fire.
Yeah, it's I try to describe it to people as well, the feeling you're talking about, but there's just like a tightness in your body that you're just like, I feel like I can lift a car. I can't, but I feel like I can. Right? There's
Hmm.
just like this tightness in the muscle in a good way.
Hmm.
It's a very good sensation. The more you
Yeah.
strength train more consistently. Um, yeah, I'm happy to hear that the amount of injuries reduced, because I think we talked about this maybe on a group call or at some point, but people think that to get better at running, to go faster and longer, they need to do more running. But you've done races. It's never your lungs that are the issue at the end of a race, right? It's always your legs. Your legs are dead. You can't push more. And
Yeah.
so by adding strength training, yeah, it reduces risk of injury. But ultimately, like, did you notice that you were a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient at running?
I noticed that I had a little bit more endurance, which was funny because, in my mind, it's always, if you want more endurance, you push yourself harder with the training, with the intervals or with the distance or the pace or whatever. And I found that I was absolutely running less mileage, but could run more,
Yeah,
or stronger. That gets into the whole, okay, you're developing the slow twitch muscle fibers and more mitochondria, and which you're familiar with, but and all of that, but which is true. But I never really pursued that avenue of fitness, not in that way. But I
yeah.
definitely observed it.
Yeah, and your photos are great. I was just trying to think, like, you made me think of Clark Kent because you have your glasses on some of your photos, and I was just like, because Coach Sarah sent me your photos. She's like, Dan's doing really well, and I look at the photos, I'm like, God damn! And then Ivy passed by, I'm like, look at his back, he looks so jacked. Like one of your photos, your back pose, I'm like, holy shit, look at the muscle definition, and your abs are coming in, the shoulders are around, the biceps are sticking out. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure your wife was happy. She was like, oh
It
yeah.
was it was pretty gratifying. I'm such a you. I guess you would know for the way I'm talking, but I'm a pretty quiet guy and pretty reserved. And just even the notion of taking pictures, I was like, oh man, I don't
Yeah.
want to take pictures, but like I said, I'm all in. I signed up for the
Yeah.
program. I'm 100% in. So I'm like, all right, I'll take the pictures, and suck it up. And yeah, it was kind of wild. I have more to that, as they say, ectomorph kind of body. It's really hard for me to gain muscle, really, and my entire life. And so to see some definition and getting muscles in areas where I never had muscles, that's just the proof is in the pudding. That shows the program works. When a guy like me can put on a little bit of muscle in areas where he hasn't in 58 years, that's saying a lot. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty
And whole
rewarding.
food plant based too, which is the other part to
Yeah,
have. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, without using, the what you call
Like,
the plant-based meat substitutes and things like that. Those, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not my way. And doing it with plant-based eating is it's just that, again, next level healthy, right?
yeah. Did you, how, like, obviously I want to talk about your journey, but I'm very curious as to how it changed your practice. Did you find that you showed up differently with your patients or kind of shared different information to them now that you were going through your own journey?
Absolutely. I mean, I think in medicine, you can't help that. It's really not about you when you're dealing with your patients. It's all about them. But at the same time, you can't help but see successes and failures that you yourself have had, and certainly other patients over so many years of practice. You've seen what people have done that have worked for
Yeah.
that type of person and for that type of person. And so over the years, you kind of coalesce all that data into, okay, well, this person's here with me and they're presenting with this kind of a lifestyle, and they have these things that they like and these things that they don't like, and you can kind of individualize it. But having
Yeah.
said that, when my patients are asking me, what their they're at an end point. They're saying, what have I've tried everything. What is it I should do? I can't help but, speak about what I've learned through the Fit Vegan program in terms of whole food, plant-based eating, coupling that with strength training. And we haven't even touched on this yet, but the mindset mentality, so critical. Being in it with your head as well as your body is so important. So yeah, I have seen that spill over into my practice, and I've shared it with a lot of patients. And I'll give you one example of that. I was actually at the gym about 2 weeks ago, and a patient of mine I saw there, which, you never know if a patient wants to see you in public, whether they're going to be, like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Oh. And, but happily, this patient of mine was really happy to see me and came and say, "Hey, I just got to tell you, that I didn't go all plant based, but I did these changes with my diet in terms of whole food plant based eating, and they dropped the 15 pounds that they were looking to lose that they couldn't lose for the last 5 years, and it was over the course of about 4 months. They dropped, boom, 15 pounds like that. So they approached me in the middle of the gym just to come up and say thank you for that. So yeah, it does definitely translate.
Yeah. It's rewarding, right? Like kind
Yeah,
of,
you want to help people, right? And that's the whole
yeah.
idea, is get them to feel good about themselves, to live healthy, happy lives, and have longevity with vitality. Have that vigor, as you age.
Yeah. I want to talk about mindset because you brought it up, but I'd
Mhm.
first love to have the picture of where was Dan at the beginning of the program? Where was Dan physically, mentally, and from a health wise? And where are you at now? And then we can kind of like explore the journey together.
Yeah, yeah. From a mindset mentality, um, I just sort of take the mindset for granted up to this point. Just I am who I am. I consider myself a strong person. I consider myself a person who can be disciplined. That doesn't translate into a healthy mindset necessarily. And looking back on it, I had a good approach, but I think that my adaptive behaviors that I learned to employ that got me to where I was in life, at some
Mm,
point, many of them became maladaptive. Like, an example is that kind of driving dedication or discipline at some point in the last few years became a point of negativity for me, where if I
mm,
wasn't reaching or achieving the standards that I'd set for myself, I'd beat myself up for it. And
mm.
that's something that's very insidious. It's very motivating in one way, but in most ways, my experience is that's very negative and it's not healthy.
Yeah.
So with the help of my coach and with some of the books that you had recommended, if I don't know if you mind me mentioning a specific book in particular, but when I first
Yeah.
signed up for the program, you mentioned the book The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks,
Yeah.
and that was big. I it was very, very helpful to me. And then, but with as far as the setting the standards and beating myself up for not making the mark, I came to the realization along the continuum in the practice of the Fit Vegan program that perfectionism is not the same thing as getting results. Perfectionism is not a good thing, at least not for me.
Yeah.
And coming to terms with, I don't need to be perfect. I just need to make my best effort every day and have the ability to give myself the grace to not to compromise, but to make adjustments as I go along and be happy in that moment with what I can achieve right now, giving my best. But if it's not what was on the agenda for that day, or I had to move my workout to another day or cut it short because I had to get to work or leave the gym, I didn't beat myself up for that anymore. It's very liberating. So that's the kind of freedom that you get with good discipline. And that's one of the things that I learned in terms of mindset was that perfectionism isn't really what I'm after. I'm looking at becoming the best version of myself.
Yeah, and I'm sure you see it with your patients as well, right? You will have recommendations for them, and a lot of time, the thing that will prevent them from moving forward is they think that they need to do it perfectly, and they won't do it until they can or want to, and then therefore they do nothing for the most part. And
Yeah. You can only step forward from where you are, right?
yeah,
And that's an important realization to make. You want to, it's important to set goals. It's important to set standards, and it's important to set up markers so you can knock them down as you go along. But there are many different pathways to accomplish that are good if you have the right mindset. And so this program, that mindset mentality, huge, huge.
when did that shift for you in a journey? Was it like, just for the people listening, was it like day one? Was it month two? Kind of when did you feel the biggest change?
I think it happened in two big moments that I can recall. Like I said, the very first month I read The Big Leap, and that
Yep.
helped a lot, and so that got me on the way toward making that recognition about the mindset and not setting myself up for problems. And then the second one was actually pretty late. Let me think. It was about 4 months into it, where I had a week where we do these weekly check-ins that are fantastic. By the way, the accountability on that is just amazing. You get this great introspection as, yeah, how did I do this week? What was my weight? How many hours of sleep did I get? That weekly check-in is huge. But in one of the weekly check-ins, I was sharing how something at work plus travel had just blown up everything that I had planned. And I just an offhanded remark to my coach about how, yeah, but I was totally okay with that.
Yeah.
I was totally okay with it. It didn't, and 6 months ago, it would have wrecked me. And
Yeah.
Coach Sarah picked up on that. And really, we had a one-on-one conversation about that she kind of teased that out in a little greater depth and pointed out, here's what you said. And
Yeah.
let's talk about that for a minute. And the light bulb went off.
Yeah. Did you find, because what I found throughout the years, and again, I have to kind of check our numbers, but I think 750 plus people now that we've coached, that we help transform. There's obviously patterns that people kind of go through as they go through their transformation. One of them is when there is that I don't say limiting belief, but that self sabotage of like, oh my God, I wasn't perfect, I messed up. Then
Mhm.
people will go off track because they're like, well, I screwed up, so therefore I'm just not going to go on track, or I'm going to stay off track for an extended period of time before I come back on. So I think a lot of your success was due to you not beating yourself up and kind of learning that lesson. But second is also your ability to get back on track as fast as possible.
Mhm.
Meaning you didn't wait till like next Monday or the next month or the next quarter or the next year to get back on it.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No, I agree with that. I think that, the ability to, the resilience that you learn, is applicable as well. And it makes you resilient. But the good thing is that I didn't have to invent all that. I didn't have to do all that myself. That burden wasn't on my shoulders. As it has been before I've been in a program like this, it was on my shoulders. That
Yeah.
was, that was laid out for me. All I had to do was open my app back up, kind of scroll through some of the messages from some of the fit vegan community, that great rapport you have with the texting every day and all of that. And that kind of lifts you up, get you refocused. You flip over to what your program is for the next day and go, okay, I'm going to do that, and that tomorrow. And it took the burden of having to reinvent that all the time away from me. And I just had to follow the program.
Did you find that helpful to not have to reconfigure everything every time?
Oh, absolutely. That's because it takes time and energy and headspace, and you know how that is. At the end of the day, it's you're tired. You're kind of beat from, let's say you're fortunate enough to get up at 4:30 that morning and head to the gym before work, and then you have a full day of work, and you come home and you got X, Y, and Z you got to do, and then if you have to reinvent that night, and I don't know about it, I can't speak to anybody else, but I'm toast at that point. I just don't
Yeah.
have it in me, and I'm really all right. Well, think about that in the morning, and I didn't have to go that route, which I've historically done in the past. It was just sitting there waiting for me. Here, Dan, do this. Okay, good. I can do that. Made it
Yeah.
easy.
So obviously there's a lot of tools that were helpful for you. I'm curious, what would you say was the time that was the most challenging for you in the program, and how did you overcome it?
Um, Gosh, that's a great question. I didn't find any one time that was, overwhelmingly challenging. I think it's just when life gets in the way. The two things that come to mind, there were two times, um, usually around travel. I know that a lot of the members have travel issues with their work, and many people have incredibly busy jobs where you're traveling to, Cuba or to Europe or just heck, I don't know, across the Wisconsin border. But travel, it really does make it a little more challenging, when
Yeah.
you're going out of town for 10 days, to be able to plan and to be comfortable again with not having the perfectionism of, oh my gosh, I've got these exercises at the gym that I have to do, and I've got this meal plan that I've got to follow. all right, well, I don't have a gym like I do here at home. I've got a hotel gym. I'm going to take my exercise bands. I'm going to do some body weight exercise and whatever weights they got, that's where I'm going to go. And again, I'm okay with that. And
Yeah.
then, all right, I'm going to seek out some plant-based restaurants. I'll take the food with me that I can.
Yeah.
But you gotta be willing to make some very hard but good compromises and do the best thing you can in terms so I think that the travel was a challenging spot, and I just overcame that by preparatory work and accepting that I'm going to do the best I can with what I got where I am right now. I one of the things you had mentioned on one of your group calls was there's always something better on the menu.
Yeah.
If you're at the restaurant and they don't have this plethora of plant-based options, there's always something there that's good, and there's usually something that's better. And if you look at it that way, you can make the tough choice on the road too, 9 times out of 10, I would guess. So that
Yeah.
was one was that. And then certainly work. When work gets in the way, you do what you got to do for work and work around it. What I got used to later in the parts of the program that I really struggled with early on was moving my workout from
Yeah.
Wednesday to Thursday, which is not a type A thing to do, but that actually was very liberating. There was a lot of freedom that came with that too. I still got my workouts in. It just
Yeah.
was on different days, and that's okay.
Yeah. And that's why we don't make you or anyone work out 6, 7 days a week, because you miss a day, you're screwed. You don't have any wiggle room. But if you train
Right.
3, 4, max 5 days a week, then hey, you have from 2 to 3 to 4 days that you can just completely not work out, but still be able to get the job done for the week.
Hmm.
Yeah. I know what you said about the hotel room. It's always a surprise in there. Maybe a 20-pound dumbbell, maybe you get 60-pound dumbbells. You never know
Right.
what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's true. You just got to do the best you can. I think it's a matter of you just got to be honest with yourself. Am I really giving my best effort today with what I got? You think, oh, I
Yeah.
got a hotel gym, I'll just pass. Well, no,
Yeah.
you know, half measures get half results. And so that's that commit speaks to that commitment. When you commit, you get results.
Yeah, it's being resourceful as well. Like I was in Florida in Jacksonville with Ivy, and the hotel gym sucked. I think it went up to 15 pounds. I can't do much with 15 pounds. Maybe lateral raises. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And so I found a gym 15 minutes away, little jog there, paid for a membership for a few days, ran back, and just there's always an option. There's so many gyms nowadays that
Hmm.
have like cheap fees that you can make work. And yeah, you're right. When you look at a menu, like you know, you know if you're making the right choice, right? You know
Hmm.
when you're ordering it.
Well, it's funny because when you went out of town to go to a Tony Robbins
Oh yeah, those are
thing
hectic.
with Ivy. Yeah, and I remember, just so you know, that was very helpful because we know what that encompasses. You're up early, you're up late, but so you're putting in what these 16-hour days,
Yeah,
and you still hit the gym. So
I
you talk
did.
about me with my patients, right? That's you with your clients. You have that witness too, and that's a very valuable thing in this program is that you walk the walk and you live that with us, and that's incredibly helpful. Okay, Maxim's he's at the gym after 16 hours of Tony Robbins. I guess I could drag my butt out of bed this morning.
Yeah, Tony doesn't care about time. They call it Tony time when you're at an event. It's just sometimes you'll go till 3 in the morning, and sometimes it's till 10 at night. Just whatever he feels like talking about is how long it goes. Yeah, that's what happens when you're Tony Robbins. You just do whatever you want. No, but it's really cool for me to hear that, because obviously you never know what's going to impact people and members.
Mhm.
And so it's funny to, like, when you say like, oh, you said this on a group call, this on a group call. I never know what's going to resonate. I just trying to provide value and kind of speak my truth and kind of how things are. So it's fun to see what lands with you and what lands with people when
Mhm.
when I share. And yeah, you're right. When if you're type A, it's very challenging to like be like, oh, I'm not going to do this workout on Wednesday. I'm going to move it to Thursday.
Yeah.
You feel like you're cheating a little bit. There's just this part of your soul that just dies because you're like, oh, I didn't do it on the exact date that I was
That's
supposed
right.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because we know following the template works. So if you get off template, your mind's telling you, yeah, if you're off template, maybe this won't be. Yeah, well, we know that's nonsense. You just got to just do the work when you do it, and like you said, do the best you can. And be honest with yourself.
Yeah, and honestly, even with traveling, even with not eating the most ideal food in certain scenarios when you're traveling or eating to the restaurant, even with missing workouts, even with life happening, you're still able to get amazing results the whole way through, right? And so it just goes to show to people that like the the idea of perfection doesn't exist when it comes to fitness, right? I'd say I'm pretty disciplined. I'm not perfect all the time. I miss my workouts. I delay them sometimes. I procrastinate as well until 8 p.m. at night to do my bike workout. But
So,
yeah, that's what I did today. I didn't do it this morning. I'm gonna do it this evening after this. But you kind of delay things, but ultimately you always get it done, right? That's the important part. So I'm curious, what were some of the tools that were the most valuable and helpful for you on your journey throughout the program?
well, definitely as I mentioned earlier, the weekly check-in. I just thought that was kind of perfunctory in the early going, just a means of the coaches to kind of make sure that you're kind of staying on track. What I didn't appreciate and picked up on very quickly is that was almost a form of, if you will, journaling,
Yeah,
where you kind of, I as much as I was writing into it, I was getting that reflection out of it, which I probably would have missed if I wasn't doing that. So that was, I found, very helpful. Definitely unfortunately, with my job, the timing of the group calls, I can't participate live as much as I would like, but the fact that they're recorded, and the fact that there's probably more calls that are in that archive than I could listen to over time,
you can
you
listen to
know
one a day for more than a year for sure.
yeah, but to have access to those is really helpful, because you can just pop it in and you can listen, and kind of like you said, you don't know what's gonna hit you or when it's gonna hit you, but it's definitely better to have the live interaction 100-fold. I mean, that some of the I feel like some of the people that I've interacted with on those calls are my friends, and they're living in Hawaii and Nova Scotia and the
Yeah,
UP of Michigan, and the camaraderie that you get out of that, and the encouragement you get from the other people is so valuable. But having them available in the archive, to listen to off when you're unfortunate where your schedule doesn't allow you to join in live, that was really helpful too. And then obviously, I my plant-based eating habits, were, I would characterize them as good. Like,
hmm
I became functional in my whole food plant-based eating over the course of about 5 years, but I really wasn't as good as I thought I was. And especially in terms of breaking down the macros, and really learning about nutrition. I've learned a lot more about nutrition in the first 3 months of this program than I learned in 5 years of plant-based eating and surfing the internet and reading books on my own. And that's thanks to the menu plan. That I found just incredibly helpful. Especially in terms of hitting the macros, which is so
yeah,
critical. And
yeah,
I think when you're figuring it out on your own, at least for me, that was very challenging and difficult. So having the meal plans to not only use, so that you don't have to do it all yourself, so it's laid out for you here. This is a recipe for success based on your body habits, your goals, and what we're trying to achieve, with your workout program. And so that made it a lot easier. And
yeah,
what I was hoping for, and have in fact seen, is that by doing that and following those meal plans and learning to cook better,
yeah,
I'm not worried about that anymore. I mean, when I graduate from the program, so to speak, and I'm out on my own, I think I got this, and I think I got that from working with the meal plans specifically. So those meal plans just made it, without oversimplifying, it made it a no-brainer. I mean, it just, here, Dan, do this, cook this stuff, eat this stuff as best you can. You're going to do good. And not only did I see success, I learned, okay, now I can employ that for the rest of my life, right?
yeah, yeah. Did you hear me talk about Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid, the analogy?
No, I don't think so.
No, that's how I structured the whole program for nutrition. So, but you know who Mr. Miyagi is from Karate Kid,
Sure.
right? When he's teaching Daniel wax on and wax off,
Hmm.
right? So he's teaching him to wax basically, but ultimately he's teaching him how to block when
Yeah.
he's fighting and strike after, right? The whole program is structured that way. So by giving you the meal plan and you having to follow it, build it, see how the meals are structured, do the meal prep, that's wax on, wax off. So when you're done the program, you know how to block, you know how to strike, you know how to stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's literally how I built the program. Is off Karate Kid for nutrition.
That's amazing. Well, that in fact, that is exactly what happened in my case. I mean, that well done, because Mr. Miyagi, because that is exactly what I'm a Daniel. You can be my sensei. It's all good.
Oh yeah,
That
I didn't make a connection. That's great. Yeah, you are Daniel. That's perfect. It worked. Yeah. So I'm curious, like how did your nutrition change from before? So you mentioned you were running and you were eating whole food plant based and you lost some weight before. Obviously, what we changed this time is you're still running. I know you did a little race not too long ago, but now you're strength training more consistently. How did your nutrition change in terms of structure from before to now?
it's just more disciplined, I guess, is one way to put it. It's more organized. I kind of just previously I would, for lack of a better way of putting it, I would just wing it.
Yeah.
I'd go stock up on a bunch of veggies and get some tempeh and some tofu, and I would buy like the plant-based meats like chicken, or whatever they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much a staple, and make a ton of stir fries with that, and that kind of eating. And so I incorporated a lot of those kind of things, but not that they're bad, and they're the right for the right person. But for me, when I transitioned away from those kind of processed plant-based foods into the whole, really buying in 100% on the whole food plant-based eating, fruits and vegetables, tofu, tempeh, and the oats, and legumes, all of that, where that's really all I'm basing my dietary patterns on. That was huge. That helped a lot. I learned a lot by doing that, and felt stronger and healthier. Because the reason I did it the other way before is because I just felt like I was always struggling to get enough protein,
Yeah.
and but I wasn't educated enough to really track it the way that I do now. And
Yeah.
so the menu plans have shown me, here's how you get protein. You can do it this way, that's healthy and safe, and you're not relying on these processed products as much, if at all, to accomplish those goals. And that's one thing that I learned that really is a game changer, that I'm really excited about, because I get to maintain that moving forward.
Yeah, I'll share a little analogy. Obviously, you share it with your patients or whoever you want, and for the people listening as well. But when it comes to nutrition, the not say the complaint, but the sentence, "I am not getting enough protein," right? A lot of people say that, but they don't actually track it or put an emphasis on it. I'll
Mhm.
just use this example because that's kind of where I'm at in my life now. Ivy and I are looking to kind of buy a house. So, going to put money aside for a down deposit and all that fun stuff. I've been wanting that, but until I decided that I'm going to create a bank account that I will put a percentage into it every single time I get money, then it wasn't a tangible goal because I wasn't tracking it, right? I didn't know how much I would have to be able to buy the house. It's the same thing with protein. If you don't track it or you don't put an emphasis on it, how do you know how much you're getting, and how do you know how much room you have to put towards it? Meaning, I'll just use a different analogy. You have a budget every month for your household, right? You got to pay mortgage and bills and food and all that fun stuff.
Mhm.
A certain amount of money comes in. Your most important payment, I'm just going to assume, is the mortgage, right? So you got the money for the mortgage, you put it on it, and then there's leftover, and that's what you live on, right?
Mhm.
In the nutrition standpoint, the mortgage is the protein, and the leftover money is your carbs and fat. So if your mortgage payment, if you have a smaller budget, your calorie decreases, right?
Mhm.
Your mortgage payment stays the same. So that means you're bringing in less money for the month, but the mortgage payment is the same. That means you have less left over to do fun shit with it.
Right.
That's carbs and fat. So protein will always stay the same, calories decrease. You have less carbs and fat to play with, but they're still there. You get to choose how you want to spend it ultimately.
Mhm.
All right. So yeah, it's the most important thing to focus on when you want to shift your body composition. So I'd love to ask you, like, what are some of the biggest differences that you've noticed in your body, in your mind, and in your health? If you just name two for each that you personally noticed that have changed since you started.
Mhm. In the body, definitely, I just feel healthier. I feel stronger, no doubt about it. I mean, I lost adipose tissue, and I gained muscle. everybody raise their hands who doesn't want to see that happen,
Yeah.
and so it just I feel healthier and stronger. And so that's the body. It's just the fruits of the program. It's unavoidable if you stick with the program. That's what's going to happen. You're going to lose weight and you're going to gain muscle. Period. You're going to and those, but that translates over into better bodily health. With okay, so you're sleeping better, right? Hopefully,
Yeah.
you've got the sack time. Well, that leads to better immunity, better recovery. Now you can try harder. You can apply a little bit more. It turns that downward spiral into an upward spiral. Of growth, just from the physicality standpoint. The mindset, as I said, that the mindset's just been, it's something that you have to work on, like your body. You have to apply yourself to your mentality, which isn't always easy. I mean, just like getting up and going to
Yeah.
the gym isn't always easy, but you do it because at the end of the day you're going to feel better. It's one more building block in achieving your goal, right? The mindset is the same thing. It has to be cultivated, it has to be worked on. But that's not that hard. It's not like we've talked about this on the group calls. It's not like, oh, I have to meditate. It's like, oh, I get to meditate.
Yeah.
It's how you think about it. So the mindset, turning it around from a negativity mindset to a positivity mindset is, I know, easy to say and sometimes hard to do, but the more you do it, the easier it is to do it and the more
Yeah.
natural it becomes. So I've seen a greater mental fortitude and positivity, which is you know really gratifying. And what was the third thing that you wanted?
It's body, health, and mind.
Body health. So we talked about body, mind, and health. Just, well, health has been, it's the healthy body lends itself toward just fighting off being sick. I mean, I
Yeah.
really, I'm blessed. I just have been given a really good run of good health. I haven't had any changes in my health for the negative. It's all been for the better. The cholesterol's coming down, the blood pressure's stable. The health, which is not the norm, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's most people, when they're not actively looking at getting healthier. I tell my patients this all the time. Your health is a responsibility, and for the most part, it's an oversimplification, but it's very true that you have two choices. You can either work on your health as a job or as a goal or as something that is important to you, or you can accept that you will get less healthy over time.
Yeah.
Period. There's
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 no
not a third
keeping it.
option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
And
no
it's not to
keeping it.
pressure people or make them feel guilty. It's just to say that, look, you make time for the things that are important to you. And so your health has to be that. It has to be important to you because no one's going to do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're. I definitely will try to make people feel guilty that are not exercising because I don't have the medical board behind me. I can say like, make you feel guilty. You guys need to move, right?
Right.
um, so I'm curious. Like, two more things I'd like to cover with you is I'm curious to know how that impacted your relationship with your wife and your kids and kind of the household for them to see you go through this transformational journey.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that it, having a supportive, partner is so valuable. I mean, there were days, many days where I came home from work and it was meal prep day, and I was just a wash rag, and my wife is there in the kitchen with me, man. If I had four meals to prep, she'd be like, "Which ones am I doing?" And she was right there with me. She's not eating exclusively a whole food plant-based diet, but she eats tons and tons of fruits and vegetables, and
Yeah.
lean. She'll eat some lean animal products, but in terms of her support, off the charts. She's really been my biggest cheerleader and biggest supporter, and that's extraordinarily valuable because you know you're gonna go about as far as you can with your spouse. If she
Yeah.
never dragged me down for a second or questioned me or discouraged me. Quite the opposite. My sons, I have four sons, and they're men now. My youngest is 21, but I'll tell you, when they were home over the holidays, my youngest son came up and grabbed my arm like that, and he went, whoa, dad, what's going on here? He's like, you got a gun in there, you know? And I thought that feels pretty good to have your young kid kind of be
Yeah,
impressed that the old man is putting on some muscle, you know? That was pretty, I don't mean that in any boastful way, because that, you know, just to
that's a
have a
cool feeling.
young guy
Yeah,
like him, you know, kind of mention that tongue in cheek, but like, wow, dad, way to go, you know? So you
yeah,
just
yeah,
hope to pass that along to your kids, that, you know, that one of the greatest forms of self-love is to be disciplined, you know, because
yeah,
you're gifting yourself your future. You know, I want to be there down the road and be there for my kids, you know, for decades. And that discipline, which our society often all too often looks at as kind of, well, that's kind of a negative thing and it's hard. And you know, discipline is just self-love. You're giving yourself the best gift that you can. So yeah, I think it's been really good for my family to see what I've committed to and seen the results that have
yeah,
come out as a consequence of that. So it's as far as providing witness, I mean, they may not at this juncture at time be whole food plant based, but they've seen what it does.
yeah. You're
They
having a
know.
strong influence.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a great
yeah.
witness to them. So I think it's been very positive in the home, in my personal life.
Beautiful. Well, that was good praise for your wife. I hope she's listening to this in the other room.
Well, I tell her, trust me, she
Yeah.
knows. She's pretty great.
All right. Now all that's left is for you to play a game of football against your son. So you can kind of catch up to this memory where you're out of breath and then show them how it's done.
That's right.
Would love to end on words of wisdom. So obviously you've been through the program, you've got incredible results, and we just
Mhm.
covered your whole journey. So the people that are listening, we have people that are in the program right now, or the people that are about to start the program soon, or people that are on their own journey of transformation.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
what are some words of wisdom or advice that you can share with them, with you having been through it?
Well, I know that it's kind of cliche to say this, but the best advice I could give is pretty simple, and that is literally trust the process. You know, if you're in on this program, and this is not just me, I've talked with the other members, some of the other members, right, personally, and if you trust the process and you don't put the kind of pressure on yourself to be perfectionist, but you're honest with yourself and you make the honest effort, you're going to get results and you're going to get rewarded. And I expect you're going to get what you're looking for, you know, but you do have to do the work. You got to roll up your sleeves and you got to make some sacrifices and some adjustments. Be willing to learn, you know, participate and just stick with it. And if you're patient, good things happen.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Dan, was the whole process worth it for you?
100%. If I could go back in my time machine, I would do this long before last spring. I would have done it years ago because this has been. I mean this from the depths of my soul. This has been one of the best decisions that I've made in my lifetime. You know, in terms of my personal health and growth and development and what it's setting me up for in the future. I have zero regrets. I would recommend this program to anyone who's serious about getting results, being healthier, and living a good life.
I appreciate the kind words, and I'm very proud of you for trusting the process and sticking to it, because I know how challenging it is. I know that different demons show up throughout the journey that we have to kind of deal with and confront to be able to continue to move forward. So I applaud you. I applaud you and your partner and your wife for going through this together, because it is so much better to go through this as a couple. And yeah, man, I'm just really proud of you. I'm excited for us to meet in person next year. I'll invite you to the workshops, or whenever you're in LA, let me know. We'll do a
There you go.
workout, eat some vegan sushi.
That sounds great. I'm in.
Beautiful. Well,
Same if you're ever in Michigan, same thing.
absolutely. Well, I'm stuck in the States. A little insight, but by the time this episode goes live, it'll be a few weeks will have passed. But Ivy and I got our papers to get married, so we're getting married next Friday.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So
That's wonderful.
I will be locked into the States for 8 months at least until they process my stuff. So yeah, I'm going to travel around the States and kind of explore a little bit.
Well, good. That's a great opportunity for you.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I want to say again, thank you for jumping on the show. Everyone, thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to rate it, comment, depending on which platform you're listening on. If you do want more information on how we've been able to help Dr. Dan and all their amazing members, there's a link down below for you to book your free call, which is the same process that Dr. Dan went through. Basically, we want to identify where you're at, what you want to accomplish, what are things that are limiting you, and see if we'd be a good fit to work together so you can get incredible results in the new year. So, links down below, book your free call. And everyone, thank you very much for listening.
Do it, people. You won't regret it.